Welcome to another episode of EdTech Table Talks, where we dive deeper into educational technology best practices. Today, from the Social Studies Department, I have two special guests. I have Mr. Scott Crosno and Mr. Nathan Reynolds, and they're here today to discuss with you how you can successfully give an exam to your students using Eduphoria's Aware with the accompanying LockDown browser.
So I first wanted to start using the LockDown browser at the very beginning of the year. And so I started taking baby steps to kind of get to that point. I felt pretty confident doing tests in Aware, just period. We've used Aware in the past to do tests. The online part was new, but it was really straightforward. I think the thing that sealed the deal for me was that we could upload an exam view file of our tests into Aware. So that made doing tests in Aware really easy. And so over the next month or two of school starting in August and September, when things were really easy and not hard at all, uh, we started kind of unpacking kind of what it would look like to use a LockDown browser in Aware. And we started to kind of uncover some hoops that we had to jump through. But ultimately, the reason that I think we wanted to use it is to ensure equity between remote kids and kids in person.
Yeah, I think the memory I've got of it was beginning of the year. It really seemed that the first, during the phase-in weeks, it was really all about trying to figure out how we were going to conduct instruction in class
Yeah.
and what that looked like with both in-person and remote students. And then by the time we got a few weeks into it, there was kind of this realization, oh, yeah, we need to be giving tests too. And how do we make that happen? And early in the year, I know there were teachers in social studies that were trying to think about what platforms or kind of like experimenting with how to use Aware or Canvas. And then when we kind of learned that the LockDown browser was available in Aware, we kind of decided to push forward with that and see what we could make happen.
Yeah, and I mean, I've used Canvas extensively, except for tests and quizzes. I started using Aware at the beginning just because it seemed relatively easy. And the thing that I liked about Aware was you could start the test and stop the test for a whole class at one time. So that initially drew me to Aware, and then I started to kind of investigate and see what I would need to do to get the LockDown browser to work.
So when you first decided to use the LockDown browser, who did you talk to first? I don't know if that was me or if that was somebody else.
I think it was uh, maybe Katie Badenhorst, who's the CNI person for social studies, because she's been kind of our go-to person with Aware when it came to doing common assessments. So she's worked a lot with Aware. And so I think between her and you, we just kind of started saying, okay, what do we need to do to make this work? And she kind of led us to talking to some technology people at ESC, and we kind of once that started happening, a bunch of people got involved.
So I remember that Katie came to me and she made a one question quiz in Canvas, the famous
Mhm.
one question, in Aware. And I stole a student's computer, student device, district device that a student has out of I was going to say homeroom, but it's not homeroom this year. It is study hall.
Mhm.
And so tested the LockDown browser on that one device and then kind of got a proof of concept that it worked. And then I think I talked to you shortly after that
Yeah.
to see what we could do to maybe kind of use it for a larger number of kids for maybe a real test.
Yeah. So okay, I remember that now that once you and Katie kind of did that trial run to kind of see that it worked as a theory, I created a one question test in Aware and asked I think I started with my AP sections and just made one test in Aware or one question in Aware. I think it said, "How are you doing today?" And enabled the LockDown browser function just to kind of see what would happen, what troubleshooting we'd have to go through. Um, and I didn't actually do it as an activity in class. I just said, hey, this is a thing. Go and take this test and let me know if you have any
Just
problems.
like give it a shot.
Yeah, and for most people, and maybe I should quantify that, more than 50% of people, but probably less than 75% of people, 50 to 75% of people were able to uh, download it no problem, whether it was their device or a student device. But we did run into some hiccups that we had to kind of deal with. Um, so initially, what I really learned through this is that a lot of our kids don't know how to computer very well. They know how to type with two fingers. They know how to surf the internet, but when it came to troubleshooting and downloading a program and installing the program you just downloaded, they were very lost.
Actually,
Uh,
how to read the words around the
yeah,
OK button before you click OK or
right.
cancel.
Yeah, I basically was like, if a box pops up, don't click anything till you read it and ask me. Because I just had kids just clicking through and not really thinking about what they were doing. So they're like, it doesn't work. And I was like, well, what happened? And like, well, this popped up and I hit okay. And I was like, well, you said to not download it. That was why it didn't work. So once I got past that, and really what that did was help me to kind of prepare how to do this on a larger scale with my other sections later on. And what I discovered is dedicating a day in class to this is well worth your time. Because what kids are going to have to do when you create a lockdown browser test, when they go to start that test like a normal online aware test, it's going to take them to the lockdown browser start page. And it's going to either say start the test if you have the lockdown browser, or to download the browser if they don't have it. And if it's the first time they're doing it, almost everybody's going to have to download it. And I found at that stage, most kids just need a little bit of guidance. Like if it's not downloading right when you click it, right click and hit open in a new tab. And that solved a lot of problems for some kids who couldn't get it to download. And then we ran into the problem of kids who got a device from the district kind of way early on. They started off remote and maybe they're still remote. Their computer wouldn't even let them download it. And so we had to connect them with technology. And well, isn't that convenient? Um, so for those kids who weren't able to even download it on their district device, uh, we had to connect them with technology. And so in that process, we kind of found a really good system where if any kid who has a district device is unable to download it, we had them fill out a Microsoft form or survey that we created, and we gave that list to technology because they need to get together with technology in order to get that put on their device. And once they did that, it was totally fine. And I will say, for my AP sections, which are the classes that have been using the Lockdown browser, once everyone got the Lockdown browser on their device, I've had zero problems. I think the biggest hiccup is getting it downloaded. And what I would encourage people to do is try to do it as a team or with somebody else supporting you, because you're going to pull your hair out going crazy trying to do it all by yourself. And so um, I did that. The senior social studies team did this a couple weeks ago with really good success. And I think the thing that kept us all calm was kind of anticipating the problems that were going to come. That there were going to be some kids who had district devices that couldn't download it, and we knew that our solution was to take their name down and have them fill out that survey and hook them up with technology.
And also, there were going to be kids that were going to just click the wrong button and get the login for Aware wrong, or just kind of calmly redirecting them so they can do things the right
Mhm.
way.
Yeah, so the day that we did that, I think Carrie was there, Adrian was there, several people from technology were helping, and Jairus was around for a little bit, and our CNI person, Katie Batenhorst, was there helping out for a little bit. I think just having kind of a team who's willing to kind of walk and step through it with you so that you can kind of say, hey, has this happened to you? No, let me see what they did. So that you can kind of troubleshoot together, because it is a lot, and it may not be worth it if you're the only one doing it. But what we found is that once we kind of teamed up together and did it, we could kind of get over those problems pretty easily, and gave ourselves enough time. Like, we did this before Thanksgiving, and our goal was to have every student ready for the final exam. And I've got 3 kids left who need to get theirs uh, synced up with technology.
So on that day
Um,
that you guys did the test run on this, it was about 300 students that you really successfully started in there,
yeah,
and then a couple of dozen reported that they had problems, but not all of them were uh, download issues. I know there were some that it was they were trying to use a Chromebook,
yeah.
or they were trying to use their phones, and the lockdown browser is not compatible on either one of those. I knew that that test with the government econ classes was successful because I had heard that Miss Williams in the office had gone through her on hand stock of district laptops to check out to students that needed them, because we just created a whole lot of students that needed a district laptop for the first
Mhm.
time, because you can't use a phone for this, and this is
Yeah.
going to up the ante for what the kids are going to be responsible for.
Yeah, and I think, like, without giving like a complete step-by-step instruction of what we did, what I would recommend to people, if you're going to attempt to do this, is do it with a team, and make your expectations really clear with the kids, kind of as to what you're wanting to do with this and why, and give yourself time to do it. So a day or two to kind of uh, deal with the troubleshooting. Because honestly, it'll take 5 seconds to do if it works right. It's the going through and helping each student and troubleshooting with them that you need to kind of set time aside for. But yeah, doing it as a team and kind of giving yourself enough time for that. And I've typed up like step by step instructions and can share that with anybody who's interested in doing this, because I do think it's worth it. Because once I did this with my AP sections, um, I'll tell you in a little bit. In my AP sections, where I've done 2 or 3 tests using the Lockdown browser, the way that I've kind of set up my test day is I have all kids in class and remote uh, log into Aware, and I've not started the test yet. And then I will verify with my remote kids that because they stay on Teams during the test, so I can kind of monitor them and watch them while they're taking the test as if they were sitting at a desk in my classroom. And so I just verify that their camera's on and that the angle is so that I can see their hands and their face while they're taking the test. And once they're good to go, I turn on the test, and I can kind of see in the Aware test portal on my end who's started the test. Uh, and there's no way for them to open up a different browser when they're in the computer. Now, again, like, I know this is a battle that a lot of teachers have had all semester. Like, I cannot keep a student from cheating if they want to. Almost all of this is a preventative, and this was not about me controlling the environment so I could keep kids from cheating. It was more to make kids in person feel like they were taking their test on an equal playing field. Uh, because if they're in person, like, I know if they're doing something for the most part, unless they're really sneaky.
Like,
But
if the
like,
kids are in person, it's like they can't.
mhm,
I mean, you're not going to let them just Google whatever they want to
yeah,
Google in the middle of the test, and that's what the lockdown browser can really do.
right,
It just kind of keeps the students from able to move away from the test to go, copy and paste the question into your test question into a search engine.
yeah,
What is not technically included in the lockdown browser is, and this is the counter argument I've heard. It's like, how is a lockdown browser going to stop a kid from breaking out their phone and just looking at questions on their phone? And by itself, the lockdown browser can't. But since it is set up in such a way that teams can be active, and you can have them with camera on and their microphones on while they're testing, you can watch them to make sure they're not breaking out their phones. And is it going to be 100% of the time fix all the problems? No, but I think everybody can understand that there are students that every test anybody ever gives that are doing something with their phone, like under the desktop, just
yeah,
like we don't know what's going on, but we can't catch everything in the
right,
room, just like we can't catch everything at home.
yeah. And that's why it was important for me to do in my AP classes at the beginning. because like there is such a competition and there is such pressure on these kids in the advanced classes to get the highest grade they can. And if there's a remote kid at home taking the test, looking everything up, like that's not fair to the kid in class. And so I didn't want to make everything open note because I did want to hold my kids to a certain standard. And this seemed like a good way to kind of do that across the board, where kids at home were kind of on the hook because I could see them and I knew that they weren't doing anything else on the device they were taking. Now, kids are smart and they can work around it. If they do, there's nothing I can do past that point. Um, just like if a kid was in class really going above and beyond to cheat, there's nothing I can do if I can't see it.
I think it's all about trying to establish some consistency and integrity, which
Yeah.
is why I know the government econ teams are looking to use this for their semester exams in a couple of weeks. I would say if anybody else is interested in trying to use the lockdown browser and Aware for semester exams, you probably want to start working through the logistics with your kids and your classes as soon as you possibly can so you can try to smooth everything out. And then, I mean, always, I know I've talked to Reynolds about this, always have a backup plan
Mhm.
in case something goes wrong, because there's going to be some technology issues with or without a lockdown browser. What are we going to do if the power happens to go out for 6 hours, either at school or in somebody's neighborhood on a semester exam day? So you always have to expect the unexpected, and you can't prevent all those problems from happening. You just need to be able to roll with the punches and be flexible.
Yeah, and I don't want to like make this seem like it's super easy because there are some intense steps that you have to go through doing it, but I think they are accomplishable. That's a word. They're easily accomplished if you can anticipate them. And I think the work that you would put into getting this set up is well worth it if you're talking about ensuring like equity uh, amongst your kids and their performance on tests. And I know that this is one of several solutions. I know that there's several different options for ensuring equity when giving tests remote and in person. But I found this one to be really helpful. And once we got through it and the kids kind of knew what to expect, it's been a really easy uh, uh, process for us in class.
Yeah, I think it's an easy one for the kids to get through. It's definitely got some hoops for teachers to have to jump through to be able to get there,
Mhm.
but it's not like it's prohibitively difficult, and it's not like there's any teacher has to figure out all this stuff on their own. There's always going to be people out there willing
Yeah,
to help do this if we're trying to make things equitable for the kids.
yeah. You just have to ask for it or complain to the right person, and then you'll get the right help.
There you go.
I would like to thank Mr. Crosno and Mr. Reynolds for being here with us today. If you would like to give an exam using Aware to your students, please contact your CNI specialist for more information. If your students report any difficulties using the Lockdown browser inside of Aware, please send either myself or Carrie Krebs an email so that we can remedy the situation on our district devices.